Hi, I'm Scott Goldthorpe, and today I will be presenting about an article entitled Lots of Trouble, which is an article about absorption costing. And in this article, they focus on automakers in around 2005-2006, where they were making a lot more cars than that were demanded because they had excess capacity to do so. And what this did with absorption costing is it improves your profits for the short period of time because it increases the inventory. So in a way, it shifts the cost of making these vehicles to the balance sheet away from the income statement as inventory. And how absorption costing is calculated is it is the total amount of the costs. So that includes the manufacturing costs, the fixed costs, the variable cost, by the number produced. So the more you produce, the lower the cost is, because the fixed cost, at least in this scenario, was quite large. And so by making a lot more vehicles, this decreased the cost per vehicle. And so that increased the inventory. And the financial accounting standards says that absorption costing can be used for normal capacity, but must treat abnormal capacity as a period cost. But a problem with this was, during this time, is that the standard didn't clearly define normal. So even though this probably was not normal inventory, or it wasn't, if you really think about it, it was still treated as a cost where they could put it into the inventory on the balance sheet. And this definitely did have its downside. Some of the effects of it was, it wasn't illegal, it was within the standards, it wasn't clearly defined, but it did affect them in the long run. Number one, it eroded the brand images of these automaking companies, because these vehicles would sit on the lots and they would have to discount their vehicles in order for them to sell, which doesn't look good when there's a huge discount when you see them advertising. It makes them less valuable, and for the people that do own it, they don't appreciate that as well. And other costs are involved is when the cars just sit out there, the vehicles, they do wear down. You have to replace the tires because they're sitting out there in the sun, and they aren't really driven that much. All these creates problems for the people trying to sell them. So they do have costs in maintaining it. So even though it was great in the short run, increasing their profits, in the long run, it has its own negative effects. And a few things that were learned by this was maybe they could record cost of excess capacity as an expense instead of moving it to the balance sheet. That way it is less of an incentive to do absorption costing in this way. And another thing they could change that they learned from this experience is changing the incentives of executives and how they are paid. Rather than paying them on short-term incentives, maybe you could pay them based upon brand image, more of the qualitative. It might be harder to judge, but based upon the qualitative standards instead of just short-term profits, so this doesn't happen again.